Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. All the characters in the story who enter into intimate relationships are over 18 years old. My best friend Bill Jackson and I went to a golf tournament near Bloomsburg. There we participated in a fundraiser for the basketball team of his alma mater. We were greeted by two of his old friends from the fraternity, and we managed to complete 18 holes, making 3 strokes less than the norm. It was enough to take third place in the third tournament. I've never been good at scoring in these tournaments, but I knew enough to know that we excelled among the mediocre. It was like we were the third smartest and the dumbest class in school, except we were given several packs of golf balls for our efforts. Bill and I were sipping a couple beers before heading home when we got into conversation with 2 guys from Harrisburg. We discussed important topics like baseball and football, and then discussed what we do. Both Bill and I were surprised to hear that one of the guys, Jack Andrews, was the executive director of Wegmans. Our wives worked for this company, but in a branch in Scranton. Jack worked in Mechanicsburg. You're both from northeastern Pennsylvania, from Scranton, aren't you? Jack asked. A few weeks ago, I attended a company meeting in Syracuse and came across a blonde bombshell from the Scranton branch. It was built like a brick toilet, i.e., roughly speaking, everything is in place, approximate trans. Bill looked at me and smiled. We both realized that he must have bumped into Bill's wife, Gwen, and she made an impression on him. But it was the same with every man who had ever seen her. Gwen is a beauty. Bill turned to Jack. I was pretty sure he was going to mention that Jack must be referring to his wife before he said anything inappropriate about Gwen, but it was too late. I was afraid Bill was going to smash that asshole's head in with a beer bottle, so I put my hand on his shoulder. I couldn't blame him for that, but as a friend, I had a concern to try to keep him out of jail. I felt Bill relax a little. You're talking about a real fool, Jack. Did you happen to hear the name of this little friend? Bill asked quietly. Did you hear her name? Hell, we all had to wear those stupid stickers with our names on them all day. I remember her name very well because she put a sticker on her blouse, Jack continued. I spent a lot of time looking at her badge during meetings, and if I hadn't sat next to her, I probably would have slept through most of that day as usual. I'm going there for a chance to have fun and fuck some strange girl. That's why I go to these meetings, and the management insists that I attend them in order to keep my job. We've got to get going, Bill. I hurried my friend quickly, hoping to get the hell out of here before things got any worse, if that's possible. Do any of you know Gwen Adams? Jack asked, putting an end to my dreams of escaping without incident. That was her name. If you had ever met her, you would never have forgotten her. If you ever get a chance to make love to her, do it. 2 minutes later, we were sitting in Bill's Toyota Corolla, heading east. For the first few minutes, I carefully watched his driving, fearing to get into an accident. Bill seemed to be driving pretty well, although he was driving a little too fast. Although, if I were in his place, I probably would have already pushed him into the floor, hoping to get as far away as possible before Jack came to his senses. There was blood on Bill's knuckles, but not too much, considering the effect they had on Jack's mouth. It's a wonder he hasn't broken his arm and cut his fingers to the bone on that asshole's teeth yet. I remembered seeing the tooth lying on the bar when I was pulling Jack away from that dumb bastard's sprawled body. I couldn't help but admire Bill's confidence, remembering the argument in the bar a few minutes ago. Bill calmly told Jack that he must have confused this blonde with his mother. He even told Jack that he was an imbecile bastard and that he was lying about Gwen all the time. Naturally, Jack felt the need to defend his honor and punched Bill right in the chin. In his youth, this was one of Bill's favorite activities. Several times I saw him almost drooling until some guy hit him first. Then Bill grinned and cleaned the offender's face. Bill was the youngest of 4 sons and grew up fighting incessantly. He had an iron jaw and a crushing right uppercut, which Jack learned the hard way. It was nice to see that Bill was still in shape, even after pulling the strings of a nearly 20-year marriage. It only took Bill one punch to end the entire battle. I could see that Bill wasn't in the mood to talk, so I kept my mouth shut and watched the scenery, thinking about the situation. We introduced ourselves to them as Tom Casey and Bill Kuntz. Jack even made a standard joke about Bill's last name, consonant with the word P-D-Y, or belonging to Pi Day, approximate trans, and we laughed pleasantly as if we had never heard her before. Gwen had been working at Wegmans for a year when she met Bill. When they got married, Gwen told Bill that she would keep her maiden name for work. She told Bill that it would be easier than changing all her information in the system, and she also wouldn't have to listen to a lot of tasteless jokes about her last name and anatomy. At work, her name was still Gwen Adams. Gwen was a walking wet dream. She and Bill had been married for 19 years, they had 2 children, and people still looked at her wherever she went. She was blonde, long-legged, and as Jack mentioned, Bill and I have been friends since high school. This fact, along with the fact that my wife explained to me in great detail how she would rip my balls off with her bare hands if I ever went astray, kept me from trying to do more than just admire Gwen. I never thought she would cheat on Bill. Obviously, this came as a complete surprise to him as well. Gwen and Bill introduced me to my future wife Teresa at their wedding. At that time, Teresa was just starting to work at Wegmans with Gwen. From the very beginning, it seemed to us that we got along well. The following year, Teresa and I got married. Now we had a son in the 8th grade and a daughter in the 2nd year of high school. Teresa was pretty and had a beautiful figure, but Gwen was the one that men just coveted. I tried to put myself in Bill's shoes to imagine how he felt. For some reason, it seemed to me that this knowledge would help me lighten his burden a little. He must have been suffering, and I didn't know how to react. I liked both Gwen and Bill, and I wanted them to be happily married, partly for selfish reasons. We've done a lot of things together, and Gwen and Teresa have grown closer over the years. I was very happy with the status quo and didn't want to change it. They were my favorite friends, and I always wished them luck. It was kind of lame. I knew I would be furious if Teresa betrayed me. I have never succumbed to the temptations that have come my way from time to time. Teresa often said how bad my life would be if I ever gave up. I never thought any woman was worth risking losing Teresa. I was sure she felt the same way. We didn't have hot sex every night, but we still enjoyed making love. Bill was just paying the price for having a very desirable wife. I knew that Gwen was constantly being pestered by men. I've seen quite a few examples of this, sometimes even when she was standing next to Bill. Maybe it's a good thing that my Teresa's legs aren't as long as Gwen's, and her face isn't as young and spectacular. Teresa was my wife and the mother of our 2 children, and she looked the part. I will never suffer from the pain that Bill was feeling now when he drove us home. Home? Oh shit. What will he do when he gets home? Should I go to my place immediately and let him and Gwen sort things out? What if he was angry enough to hit Gwen? Should I stay to keep some semblance of order? Did I want to hear what would be said? Did I want to watch the possible demise of their marriage? Is it really that bad? I realized that it would be nice to determine what Bill was thinking. I needed to talk to him. Bill, talk to me, buddy. I began. What are you thinking about, and how are you going to behave with Gwen when you get home? You know I can't let you do what you did to that asshole at the golf club. I need to know that you can control your emotions. I couldn't have hit Gwen even if she'd cut out my heart with a gardening tool, Bill replied grimly, although I think that's exactly what she did. I thought about it and decided to pack some things and check into a motel for a few days. I do not know if I can get through this, Tom. It is very important. I had no idea that she could do something like this to me and to us. I have never cheated on her, and until today I would have bet my life that she would never cheat on me. God, it hurts so much. Is there any way you can forgive her, Bill? I have no doubt that she loves you to death. Leaving will crush her, Bill, even if she did. You know how guys always hit on her. That's one of the problems with marrying the most beautiful woman in this damn county. Then how do you put up with it, Tom? How did you make Teresa happy and faithful? How do you keep those damn hounds away from her? She's stunningly beautiful, and you two seem to be fine, at least for now, Bill added. Well, you have to admit that Teresa doesn't attract men the way Gwen does, I said. She's fine, of course, but she's not a walking wet dream like your wife. She just doesn't get attacked as often as Gwen. What the hell are you talking about? Bill asked, looking at me as if I had 2 heads. Teresa is just a hot thing. Any normal man would give his left arm to be in her bed. Her waist is a real work of art. She has an incredible smile, and it seems that she just exudes joy. Even Gwen looks pretty pale next to Teresa. Are you crazy? Gwen looks like a goddess. She's always so athletic, tanned, well, except for the unusually large boobs. Gwen is a real beauty, I said almost reverently. Somehow, I suddenly imagined the moment Jack was talking about. Looking down and seeing Gwen was a fantasy that I had been carrying around for almost 20 years, but I never thought it was possible. I suddenly realized that I hated that asshole Jack almost as much as Bill did. Maybe that's why I accidentally stepped on his crotch when I was pulling Bill away from his sprawled body. You must be blind or something, Tom. Teresa is incredible in every way. Gwen looks pretty good. I admit it, but you won the lottery when you hooked up with Teresa, Bill insisted. And besides, she's not a fucking cheater, and that's a real plus on my list. We fell silent again, thinking about what we had just revealed to each other. Bill thought Teresa was prettier than Gwen. I struggled with this thought. Gwen was stunningly beautiful. I never thought Bill would treat my wife like that. But on the other hand, I never admitted to him how hot I thought Gwen was. We were still silent when Bill turned into his block. We both felt the tension and showed all the signs of it. Well, of course Bill looked worse than me, but my stomach was in knots too. I was afraid of the next few minutes. As we pulled into the driveway, we immediately noticed several cars. I left mine there early in the morning when I left with Bill. Behind my car was a maroon 1967 Pontiac Le Mans convertible in black, and my wife's car was already behind him. What the fuck, Bill? Doesn't it look like that 3-speed Pontiac you used to have? Who the hell does this beauty belong to? I asked, getting out of the passenger door before Bill stopped the car completely. It's probably some freak who's pissing Gwen off while I'm not at home, Bill replied angrily, looking at the convertible. At that moment, the door of the house flew open, and Gwen and Teresa ran down the driveway with smiles as wide as the muzzle of a Pontiac. When I saw Gwen, I went back to my business. She had no idea what kind of trouble she was facing. As soon as I thought about it, my attention turned to Teresa, who was happily walking towards me. I took a good look at her and studied her features and figure. She really looked very good. Maybe Bill was right. She was a little over 40. She gave me 2 children, and I realized that she was very, very beautiful. How could I have thought Gwen was more attractive? When Teresa closed the distance between us, I had the urge to drag her into the back seat of this fucking convertible and use its back seat for its intended purpose. I hugged Teresa to me, and Gwen greeted Bill. "Happy birthday, Bill," cooed Gwen, hugging Bill around the neck. "I was looking for this car for your birthday, dear. I found her in Monticello a few weeks ago." When Gwen saw Bill's sour face and frozen posture, she added, "For some reason, you're not very happy about this, Bill. Did you find her a few weeks ago?" "How many weeks ago, Gwen? Was it before or after that Friday and Saturday you spent in Syracuse at your fucking job?" Bill asked. "Why do you have such an attitude, Bill?" Gwen asked. "It was that very weekend. I want to confess something to you. I didn't go to Syracuse. I went to Monticello to look at this car." Bill turned and looked at me. I couldn't help him in any way, as I was just as confused as he was. What the hell was Jack the asshole talking about if Gwen wasn't even in Syracuse that weekend? It didn't make any sense. He described Gwen exactly. "I had to mislead you so you wouldn't get suspicious, Bill," Gwen laughed. "I booked a ticket for this trip, but I never intended to go there. I asked Teresa to replace me. I told her to tell Tom that she was going to visit her sister in Allentown that weekend. I thought she could use my room, eat and drink at Wegman's expense. All she had to do was walk around with my badge and pretend to be Gwen Adams. There was nothing special about it. I just asked a friend to make sure that I had a special surprise for my wonderful husband on his birthday." "You've never been to Syracuse," Bill shouted, hugging Gwen and lifting her into the air. "God, how I love you, Gwen. You are the best wife in the world." "So it wasn't you, but Teresa?" "Oh shit." I felt like I'd been hit in the stomach with a sledgehammer. I was sweating and my whole body was shaking. I let go of Teresa and stumbled back to my car. Tears were streaming down my cheeks. Teresa called to me. "What happened? Why are you leaving? What the hell is going on?" I ignored her. As soon as I went to open my car door, my stomach decided to fuck off my dinner. I dropped to my knees and let him fly over Bill's manicured yard. Teresa was immediately next to me, stroking my shoulders and asking what happened. "I think I can fill you in, Teresa," Bill said softly. "We ran into Jack Andrews the asshole at the golf tournament today. He told us that he works at Wegmans, that he attended a company meeting in Syracuse and beat the crap out of a blonde bimba with a badge with the name Gwen Adams. I left the bastard lying on the floor next to the bar. Tom even kicked him in the balls when he pulled me away from this freak so that I wouldn't kill him. All the way home, we thought it was Gwen sleeping with that poor bastard, but it turned out it wasn't. It was you, Teresa, and I have to tell you that I'm disappointed in you. But Tom is literally devastated. Now you know what's going on, and I don't envy you at all, Bill concluded. Did you think this guy was talking about me, Bill? Did you think I was cheating on you? I have to take this damn car and get my money back. How could you even think that I would do something like that? Have I ever given you any reason to think that I was unfaithful to you? Gwen demanded loudly. Don't try to fool me. You lied to me. You said you were at that company meeting in Syracuse, and this guy said he took a beautiful blonde with your name on it. We all know that you and Teresa are by far the most beautiful women at Wegmans, or anywhere else for that matter, and you're both blonde. I know for a fact that you're a wildcat in bed, so why should I doubt what he told us? Wow, you're right, Bill. Now I see why you were able to make that wrong assumption. Do you really think Teresa and I look great? Am I a wildcat? Gwen asked. I suppose I owe you an apology for my little innocent lie and for wondering why you jumped to conclusions so quickly. Now I was trying to get my breakfast upstairs. I was overcome by dry vomiting, which seemed even more painful. I could hear Teresa crying, rubbing my shoulders. The part of my mind that was still working was thinking about how blind I was. Teresa really was a great and wonderful wife. I should have paid more attention to what she was doing and who she was doing it with. I should have kicked that bastard in the balls even harder. I realized that even though I tried to put myself in Bill's position when he thought his wife was cheating on him, I had no idea how much it hurt him until now. I'm not sure how to tell you the rest of the story, Gwen ventured, so I think I'll let Teresa finish. Tom, listen to me, honey. I am guilty of lying to you, and I sincerely apologize for that, but I will never, ever cheat on you. I love you with all my heart, Teresa sobbed. Gwen didn't have time to finish her story. I didn't go to Syracuse instead. I refused her offer. Instead, I drove with her to Monticello to pick up Bill's car. Gwen convinced a new employee, Jessica Walters, to take her place. She just transferred from Buffalo after a terrible divorce. She's blonde, but I don't think she's as good as Gwen or me. My stomach immediately relaxed. I spat out all the particles I could find in my mouth and slowly got to my feet. Teresa stood next to me, wringing her hands and trying to smile through her tears. I've never seen her so beautiful and desirable. My breathing gradually slowed to normal as I wiped my eyes and mouth with the back of my hand. I bought you that brand new set of Nike golf clubs that you've been admiring all last year, Tom. I was going to wait until your birthday next week to give them to you, but I'm going to try to earn some forgiveness here and now. They're in the trunk of my car. Do you want to see them, dear? Teresa asked nervously. They can wait a few minutes, Teresa, I replied calmly. I must have eaten some bad seafood for dinner, but I feel better now. I never thought that Jackass Jack was talking about you. I know you too well to think that. I have no idea why the hell Bill even suggested it. My stomach is giving me some trouble, and everyone is jumping to conclusions. There seems to be too much going on here for my poor stomach. Yeah, that's right. You didn't eat fish for dinner, asshole. It was a first-class rib, and I ate the same thing as you. You haven't eaten anything like that. No? I asked. Didn't I stand next to you when you almost threw up your guts at that bus stop? We had something inside that didn't suit us. I would suggest that the idea of staying married to a cheater is something that neither of you is happy with. Gwen laughed. Are you guys hungry now that your stomachs have cleared? Not me. It was almost dark. I'm going to take a ride in my new car, topless, so to speak, Bill grinned. With pleasure. Gwen laughed, nimbly stepping through the door and plopping into the passenger seat while Bill got behind the wheel. If you two don't come with us, I'll see you later, but you'll regret missing the first race, Gwen promised. I stood next to Teresa and watched as Bill shifted the gear lever in search of reverse gear, and then slowly released the clutch. Gwen's shirt landed at our feet before Bill could make a move. Wow, look at Gwen. Teresa gasped. I'm watching. And I have to admit, Bill was right about both things. I confessed when Teresa wrapped her arms around my neck and whispered in my ear. The back seat is empty, and we were invited. End.